Okay, a little fleshing out of the whole concept apparently running around about possibly selling Star Trek to Warner Brothers, separate from the whole thing. Warner's trying to buy Paramount. They came back with a cash deal. So, how about we just pay this much for Star Trek itself, just the property? Okay, here's why it's not going to happen. I just went through Sidetrack's video on this, so it's not like I'm trying to claim anything. This is more my take on it, and he doesn't think it's really going to happen either. But a number of things here. Uh, it really can't happen as long as the whole thing is going on with Skydance, because part of the whole bidding process and figuring how much to pay for it is the total value of the company. That includes its IPs. And he used he used the example of like, look, you're looking at a very nice house, a very nice pool, and when you move in, you find out they filled in the pool, and you're going to feel kind of gypped. So it affects the value of the property you're trying to buy. It also, it could be charged with stock manipulation. So it's not just business screwing; it's actually getting into crimes there. So as long as the deal for ownership of Paramount stuff's going to happen, it ain't going to happen. But it's also a question of logistically, it's like it'd be a pain in the butt. Warner, they think it's more likely that a licensing deal is more likely. They just want to do Star Trek and pay Warner pay Paramount for a license for the whole thing. The one thing that keeps running through this whole thing here is the formation of an entity called Star Trek Productions, where they buy out Secret Hideout and get everything back under one house, so they own the whole thing. Any with Star Trek on it, they own it. Get that, and also in the process, get rid of Kurtzman. Kurtzman really wants out. He's feeling stymied by the whole thing, and certainly he's a very divisive figure within Star Trek. Many in fandom hate his living guts and anyone associated with him, to the point where even the good stuff that comes out under his reign, it's tainted. Third season of Star Trek Picard is painted by association. I don't need this. Hold on. Until somebody comes in, I'm not going to bother with it. Just by the fact that Kurtzman's name is on the top of the list there, and his list of his small platoon of executive producers getting a piece of the action all the damn time. Hey, Charlie. And also, apparently, it's rather off-putting that a lot of people actually liked season 3 of Picard, because they did something totally different than what he's been doing with the first 2 seasons of Picard. He thought he was doing high art and great thing, and people hated it. Now comes season 3, where it's basically just right back to what it was before, and then people want that. They like that? Well, fuck you. Okay. Well, he's not, you can't make me. And if they do make him, well, he's going to sabotage it. He wants to do his other, circle jerk crap, Starfleet Academy and Section 31, which thankfully has been limited to one movie now. He wanted to do an entire series. But we can thank that little golden man on Michelle Yeoh's mantle right now for saving us from that one. She's too much in demand, and she's too expensive now to settle down with a rinky-dink little sci-fi show on streaming. Normally I would not do this, but my ear's itching like crazy. But God, it. But it's basically, number of things to say it ain't gonna happen so long as the whole deal is in flux right now. Now, unless Skydance is aware of the deal making and say, go ahead, we don't care, we're going to sell to you anyway. Because Paramount is also the case of they are rather badly in need of cash reserves. Ironically, a large part of this because of Star Trek bleeding them dry. They really grossly underestimated how much it costs to do a Star Trek show, because there's really not much institutional knowledge left of what it takes to make a Star Trek show. Other ones who were involved have gone on to something else. Moonves does this thing. He hates Star Trek. So this is kind of a poison pill situation, They kind of stick it with the Sherry Redstone, who he also hates, but he was under the impression. No, I thought this thing was supposed to be cheap. It's like, and Paul thing, low budget. No, it wasn't low budget. One of the back in the day, it was one of the most expensive shows on television. It wasn't adequately funded. They needed more money than what they got, but it was never cheap. Probably the old thing, if you can't just run down to IKEA and pick up 23rd century furniture, you got to make it yourself, or find someone to even just modify existing stuff, and that still costs money. You got to you got to make this alternatives to what you got. This included raiding the dumpsters for Mission Impossible next door. Literally, they were literally going through dumpsters. Like, because they take some piece of styrofoam packing that was something that, hey, we can spray painted gold, stick on the wall, and something, hey, stubborn piece of expressional art, expressionist art. But no, it's it can't it can't happen right now unless Skydance is okay with it. The deal could happen soon. It could happen by the end of the week. That Skydance now becomes the new owners of Paramount. Because again, the whole thing, Warner's doing it, that's falling through. They can't do it themselves because of their own problems. But again, I still think it's like, do we really want Warner Brothers to get a hold of this thing? Because I'm not sure they necessarily would be the best place for it. Now think about it though. I think the closest they have is Babylon 5. And Babylon 5, and the way they produce, I'm not sure how much institutional knowledge there is left there. Who's was around when they did Babylon 5, but they like doing Babylon because they were doing the same stuff Star Trek was doing, but at half the price. There was a lot of cost cutting out, a lot of early CGI, and also, let's face it, a lot of the stories took place on stations, so it's almost a bottle series. There wasn't much going on outside Babylon 5 itself. That wasn't just, okay, it's another cave set, or the scene where, Londo is watching the invading fleet, a swarm of fighters swarming. They shot that out, they just stepped outside the sound stage, look up in the angle so you don't see the other buildings around, and just CGI'd in the other stuff. So they were doing, lots of inventive cost cutting there. But again, I don't know if there's anybody who knows how to make Star Trek anymore, even within Paramount. Because everyone else has gone on to other things. Ron Moore's doing this For All Mankind. I don't know what Stephen Bear's doing. They have to rebuild a lot of the knowledge base. A lot of them are working for Orville, and that's over at Fox/Disney. But I don't see it happening. Even licensing it would be a bit of a stretch. I think what's going to happen. This is my gut. The Star Trek Productions thing is going to happen one way or the other because it makes sense for Paramount to have it just because. Consolidate everything, get rid of the outsiders who don't know what the hell they're doing, and try and straighten out this billion. It was a $1 billion franchise for Paramount at one point. It was making them $1 billion a year back in the 80s and 90s. So just for inflation, if they can get this thing back on track, they'll be printing money and they'll be no one to worry about trying to sell out. And I think Skydance recognizes that too. They're like, we got to, some of the properties are potential money makers just for being there, if long as they keep the quality up. And then again, Star Trek's not the only one they've got. They got Mission Impossible, Ninja Turtles, Transformers, a bunch of things that have gone off the rails. Coming in the last few Transformers movies, well, they've all kind of been varying degrees of junk, but the audience is caught up with, and they're not buying. The one that got any excitement was Bumblebee, and they scampered away from that one for some stupid reason. But I don't know. It's not gonna, I don't think it's gonna happen. And again, I don't think we necessarily want it to happen because again, Warner Bros. Is running their own properties into the dirt. Why do we want to let them, get a hold of somebody else's? So that's the way I see it going on. It's like, I do think the Star Trek production thing is because I've heard that separate from any buyout. Just the fact that this is what they're going to do to try and deal with the issue of Star Trek and deal with the issue of Alex Kurtzman and Secret Hideout. Get out of here. It makes a lot of sense on many levels because again, they can get this, get it under one roof, get control of it, check out what they don't, keep what they like, because the only ones that really are generating any kind of positive feelings from the audience has been the Third Season Picard, which is a 10-hour pilot for Legacy. People wanting Legacy, and Lower Decks has gotten good, good thing. Prodigy is started its own campaign. There's people doing airplanes with banners and save Prodigy. Got that deal pushed through. I don't know how much longer the Bloom's going to be on the Strange New Worlds thing because they're going weird. Because they seem to have exhausted their ideas of what to do with the show, and now that musicals, come on. That crossover with Lower Decks is the only episode I've seen, I think, maybe since the first one. Because I bailed out of that one. I'm not sure I watched all the first one. I don't remember, frankly, if I watched all the first one. That should say right there. And also, I think they need to, slight tangent, they need to abandon the idea of doing movies. The whole reason they did movie in the first place, because that was kind of the only option at the time, back in the late 70s, to keep the thing going. And it's like, once Next Generation started back up, I think at that point, the writing was on the wall, I think, for movies. They really should have just, no more movies. We're done. Star Trek's back where it belongs, on television. But they like that shot again, cash from a box office total. The thing is with movies, they kind of screw up the entire thing. But as a movie, kind of by necessity, is supposed to be the most important or most fun, what most something event in these characters' lives. But problem is when you got a series, it can't be, because then where do you go from up? That's kind of what screwed JJ did. Yeah, the first movie, that was you're blowing up Vulcan, you're blowing up Romulus, you're doing all kinds of Okay, what do you do for an encore? Now that you've blown up a founding member of the Federation and they're one of their main adversaries. Oh, well, we haven't done anything with the Klingons. Let's start a war with them. Just get, after a while, people just get tired of the bombast. It's like, yeah, whatever, I mean, by the time the third movie, the Enterprise is literally ripped apart on screen. Nobody gives a shit, It's like, oh, gee, another one. Oh, a giant space station shaped, it looks like a Christmas ornament. Nope, and that makes no sense technically whatsoever. I don't care anymore because it's all CGI. They know that it's all CGI. It kind of kills the idea. Because once upon a time, when it was when something had to be practical, you had to photograph something. You'd have to wonder how the hell did they do that? That would keep you. But now it's all CGI. You can have it turn inside out into a porcupine. It wouldn't make any difference because it's all CGI. Who cares? If there's no wonder, there's no interest. But I think we'll probably wrap it up there. So I think I've settled my piece on that. So links down below. I'd like to, wouldn't mind getting the Patreon going up again and other things. But until then, we will talk. I'll catch you later.